Hello, folks. In a rare case, the MegaMets Podcast is going solo tonight. For those wondering where Mega Man G is, he unfortunately suffered a bit of a health scare, passed out, and cut himself open above his right eye, resulting in stitches earlier this afternoon. As such, he's a little too conked out on sedatives to help out tonight. So, until any of my substitutes come in to help out, I'm going alone. The substitutes I decided wanted to bring in show up. I'm going this one alone. I'm doing this one alone. So, what can be said about the 2023 New York Mets and New York Yankees? Just to get this out of the way before we look at the playoff match. Before I look at the playoff matchups, let's start with the Mets since this is the more egregious one to me. There's always a danger of getting big time talent at the tail end of their primes. Case in point, Justin Verlander Justin Verlander. He couldn't get off his proper feet this year. And it infuriated me that the Mets put $430 million worth of team revenue together for this crap team. The only pitcher that seemed marginally competent was Kodai Senga, but he's a rookie. You can't expect this. Then throw in Buck's constant shifting of the batting order instead of keeping a consistent lineup. Uh, and Billy Epler being a Shohei Ohtani people pleaser. An East Coast team is not built on a West Coast model. Case in point there, the first half of the season, the Saturday games starting at 4 o'clock, even the East Coast games, unless circumstances specify, like with Colorado and San Diego, where we had night cappers against those two, instead of a 1 or 7 o'clock start. And then there was constant 7 o'clock starts on Saturday in the back half, which also pissed me off, with the exceptions of a game against Philadelphia and one against Minnesota. And Billy Epler choosing to sweep the negative consequences of these issues under the rug instead of dealing with them head on. You want to come in, Darwin? Given that Jose's on the shelf and I haven't heard back from Marcos or Evie tonight, seeing as how the latter I haven't been able to get in contact with, and the former is too busy playing MK1. Then hop in, kid. Link's right there. Throw in the pitching rotation underachieving, which led to the bullpen getting squeezed until it broke right out of the box. I mean, almost right out of the box. I mean, the Edwin Diaz injury that kept him out the whole year didn't help matters either, but that's a consequence. But that's a consequence of a different variety. So now they finally elected a president of baseball operations. It's former Milwaukee guy, David Stearns. And we all know that the coaching staff is about to get heavily gutted. No more Buck Showalter, no more Jeremy Hefner, and no more Stu Barnes. That's another guy who deserves some of the blame for throwing plate discipline out the window for getting the ball over that fence. There was little to no productivity on the base pass because this son of a bitch had so much focus on tunnel vision and getting that ball over the wall. Fuck that shit. That is a bad formula for success. I mean, there are teams that can make it work. Case in point, this year's Atlanta Braves squad. But here's the thing. That team is loaded with talent. This year's Mets squad, I don't know what the fuck we had. Other than a slew of missed opportunities, a multitude of underperformers, and a fucking fire sale that was the straw that broke my back. In addition to the fact that Cohen swept these incompetencies under the rug instead of threatening everyone's job security. That's my main issue with this year's Mets squad. 24, we need a rebuild of the coaching staff from the ground up. I don't care who becomes the manager in 24. Let's just try to not kick the can down the road. Now, with the Yankees, on the other hand, oh boy, you can blame a slew of injuries. You can blame underperformance by the players. You can blame behavioral issues on the pitching staff. But the point is, Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman should not be sticking around for another fucking year. I mean, they were lucky to even finish for the 500 mark. First time they made the playoffs since 2016, and the first time they finished further than third in the division since 2013 or 14. There was actually a point this year where the Yankees were both bottom of the barrel in the AL East and below 500. First time that's happened almost since 1992. They were that bad. But by the time they started to turn around, too little, too late. I don't know why Hal Steinbrenner even keeps Brian Cashman around. He may have been good in the 90s for George, but Hal has been basically a penny pincher with Cashman. And legacy names are not going to carry the Yankees in 2024. Simple as that. I mean, the whole pitching core was basically Garrett Cole this year. Throwing the injuries to Judge, shipping Donaldson off to Milwaukee.
Aaron Hicks of Baltimore.
True.
Trevino, Frankie Montas. Jason Dominguez, the young rookie 20-year-old guy.
Nestor Cortez sucked.
Severino sucked. Red Dome's garbage.
Like I said, the pitching core simply revolved around Garrett Cole and no one else.
Yes.
Kind of like how the Mets pitching core basically revolved around Kodai Senga and maybe Tyler McGill, but that's about it.
Wait, not Joey Lucchesi too?
Didn't have enough starts for me to count him.
Okay.
Well, let's face it, Senga deserves to be a Cy Young candidate at least. Does he not? Does he not, Darwin?
Oh, yes, he does.
Anyway, let's run down the teams that did make the cut this year. We'll start in the American League with the Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, don't get me wrong, this team basically performed to expectations when compared to last year. Third in the division, basically having to fight to keep other teams off their backs. Their opposition, the Minnesota Twins, the AL Central champions. But let's face it, this is probably the match where we could see the upset, as both leagues' Central Division sucked this year. But I say it's more so possible that the Blue Jays could take down the Twins than the D-backs knocking off the Brew Crew. You agree with this, Darwin? So, but do I see the Blue Jays getting further than the divisionals? No. Next up, the Texas Rangers made the same mistake this year the Mets did last year. Played with their food and stumbled at the finish line. Making it worse, it was on the season's final game they squandered the division crown of the Astros. And it was a loss to a team that was stuck having to play spoiler in Seattle. I guess Darwin's going to have to deal with someone in the background.
Sorry, I'm here.
As I was saying, I mean, throw in that the Rangers got Scherzer and he did little to nothing. And, of course, they're going to be without DeGrom for all of next year due to Tommy Johns. But did I think that the DeGrom surgery and the DeGrom trade and the DeGrom signing for the Rangers was going to pan out long term? No. Know what I mean?
Yes.
They're opposite. They're going up against the Tampa Bay Rays. Oh boy. This was a team that started off as one of the hottest teams in baseball. 13-0. And what happens? They screw the pooch midway through May and allow Baltimore to fly over them. Sure, they try to fight back and get close to taking the division lead back, but at the end they stumble. Now they're hosting a wild card game. This is a step up from last year where they got knocked out by the Guardians.
Yes.
But can they pull it off and go all the way? I'm not really certain about that. Especially on the 15-year anniversary of the AL championship team. As we mentioned with the Twins, this was the champion of the weakest division in the American League this year. I mean, the whole Carlos Correa fiasco may have been a linchpin to this, but I don't know. I mean, Correa didn't do much when he did come back to the Twins, and that ankle is still sus, if you ask me. So do I see the Twins getting far? Not really, in my opinion. Do you?
I think a little bit for me.
As far as the divisional, where they're going to get crushed by Houston, right?
Yes.
No brainer. Houston Astros. Fucking lucky to win the West.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, for the last 6 weeks of the year, they were in a three-way dogfight between themselves, Texas, and Seattle. And the only reason they won the division, they swept Arizona, while Seattle ended up taking 3 out of 4 from the Rangers.
But they don't make no playoff. That's crazy.
For Seattle, you mean?
Yes, I think that Seattle has a chance, but like they got eliminated by actually lost the third game against Rangers.
Yeah, I mean everyone was watching that more or less across the country, weren't they?
Yes.
That said, Houston is not as up to snuff as they were last year, but I do think they're going to make another deep push, especially since they got Verlander back in that trade deadline deal with the Mets, which was part of the Met fire sale. And then we get to the team no one thought was going to make the postseason this year, the Baltimore Orioles. After Buck had basically burnt the team to the ground in 2018, it took this team 6 years to rebuild. And what happens? They're flying high, bringing Baltimore back to prominence. And this is the 40-year anniversary of their last World Series in '83.
Wow.
Back when Cal Ripken Jr. was still a bronze kid instead of an Iron Man. Or maybe a copper kid instead of an Iron Man. Know what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
This is a team no one thought would get this far. But it has shown they have been managing to smartly rebuild from the collateral damage Showalter caused in 18. But is this a long or short-term stint for the Orioles? Usually when they get this hot, they end up crashing the next year immediately, calling it a short-term fix. But let's just hope that their status doesn't go to their heads. Know what I mean?
Yes.
Now we go to the NL. Arizona. Diamondbacks, you had the West lead for most of the season, but then after the All-Star break, you let it slip through your fingertips and you let the Dodgers pull completely away from you. And you were lucky that despite getting swept by the Astros, the Cubs and the Reds were not able to capitalize on it.
Yep, that's why they're out.
And that you owned the tiebreakers over both squads. Had they been able to capitalize on those missed opportunities, you guys wouldn't be in, and it would have been the Cubs being in this spot. Arizona's going to have a lot to work through with the crew. Next up, Miami. The other team, the team in the NL, no one thought would get this far. I mean, Miami has always been the butt of many a joke in the NL East. This is only the fourth time they've made it to the playoffs, and all 4 times it's been as a wild card. But in 2 of the 3 previous times, they've won it all. And then they completely burnt the winning team to the ground because the owner was a fucking cheapskate. Right?
Yes.
Let's say hypothetically the Marlins do win it all this year. Do they burn it to the ground again instead of trying to establish a winning culture? We'll have to wait and see. But Skip Schumacher, in my opinion, deserves Manager of the Year for taking a team that's normally a joke and making it into a wild card contender this year. Or at the very least, he deserves a nomination for it. Yes or no?
Yes.
Next up, the defending NL champions, the Phillies. This team is trying to prove that last year's run was a fluke. And when you compare their season this year to last year, it is a step up. And much like last year, they played the same formula. Push the pedal down, but not completely to the floor. But as a trade-off, this led to mid-All-Star break infighting for the top wild card between themselves and Miami, as well as keeping Arizona, Chicago, Cincinnati, San Diego, San Francisco off their backs. As one by one, each of those teams fell. Follow up with a win against Pittsburgh last Thursday. It was basically sewn up that Philadelphia was going to be the top wild card. And they've got that shot against a division rival in Miami. Next up, the Central champion Milwaukee Brew Crew. A team that, again, part of the weakest division in the National League, the National League Central. Taking advantage that the Cardinals' legacy players are basically out the door, specifically Yadier Molina, more so than Pujols. And the only legacy piece they have left is Adam Wainwright. That being said, and Milwaukee got some key pieces, is in the form of Mark Canha and Josh Donaldson, for utility purposes in the deadline, respectively. And Canha has seen a career resurgence in Milwaukee. But is it going to be enough? I don't know. I mean, this is a team that hasn't made the World Series since 1982 when they were still in the American League. And guess what team knocked them out that year, buddy? You know who knocked the Brewers out of winning the world title that year?
Wait, in 1982?
Yeah.
I think I know who it is. Is it the I think I know the team. Is it Stat Lewis?
St. Louis, yes.
Yes.
Back when they had Ozzie Smith as a rookie, I think. Anyway, do I see him getting past the Diamondbacks? Yes. Do I see him getting past the Dodgers if they make it if that's the matchup? No. Speaking of the Dodgers, third year they've had 100 straight wins, 10th NL West title in the last 11 years. But again, the key boils down to if Davey Roberts can stop going overkill micromanaging. Know what I mean?
I agreed.
Because like I said last year with Jose, this guy has the Bobby Cox syndrome. He can't win a world title unless the season is nerfed in some way or another. In his case, it was COVID in 2020. In Cox's case, it was a player strike that trimmed a small bit of the season in 95. But every year that Roberts has managed this team, it's been micromanaged to hell, where it's bitten him in the ass, either getting knocked out in the wild card or the league champion, the divisional round or the league championship round predominantly. And the 2 times they got the team of the World Series in a full season, not counting the COVID one, he got gypped by by sign stealing. I do see them at least getting to the league championship. And now we get to Atlanta. Last year, this team got knocked out because they gassed themselves out playing catch-up with the Mets to overtake them in the final weekend of the season. This year, that is not the case. This year, they ran roughshod over everybody. I mean, especially emphasis on run when you have Ronald Acuna Jr., the first and to date only member of the 40-70 club. Club on the base paths. Throw in Matt Olson having a franchise record season of 53 home runs, 139 runs batted in. Marcell Ozuna getting 39 homers and 100 RBI. Ozzie heading over 30 homers. Snitker back in 21 did what Bobby Cox could not. Get this team a World Series ring in a full 162. Last year, he couldn't do it because of the gas out. This year, I think the Braves may have smooth sailing to the World Series. You agree, Darwin?
Yes.
So let's run down our picks for the rounds. Wild card round, Toronto, Minnesota. Who you got? And in how many? It's best of 3 in this round.
Tampa.
Minnesota, Toronto first.
Oh, for that game, I'm gonna pick Twins.
In 2 or 3?
I'm gonna pick 3.
I'm gonna go Minnesota in 2.
Okay.
Texas, Tampa. This one I do see going 3. I'm gonna go Tampa. What about you?
Texas.
In
and number 2.
So you're saying Texas will sweep the Rays?
I think they should have it's gonna be a hard series because these guys are hitting so hard.
I don't know. The Ranger offense has gotten pretty cold. Got pretty cold down the stretch. But anyway, Arizona, Milwaukee. I'm taking Milwaukee in 2. You?
I pick Arizona for number 3.
So Arizona in 3 games, in your opinion?
Yes.
Miami against Philadelphia. I'm gonna go Philly in 2. What about you?
Philly for 3.
All right. You said
Philly for 3.
Okay. Twins in your Okay, Twins versus Astros. Who you got?
I'm gonna pick Astros.
3, 4, or 5?
5.
I'm gonna say Astros in 4.
Okay. Oh, so you want the sweep?
No. Divisional round.
Oh, not the sweep. Oh, okay.
Divisional round is best of 5. Rangers, Orioles for you. Rays, Orioles for me. I'm gonna go Baltimore in 4. What about you?
Baltimore and I'm gonna say Baltimore in 4 too.
Milwaukee against Los Angeles. I'm gonna go Los Angeles, and I'm gonna say 4. What about you?
Dodgers is gonna be for game 4.
Philadelphia against Miami. Against Atlanta. I'm gonna go Atlanta in 5.
So I think for me, I'm gonna pick game 4.
For Phillies or Braves?
I'm gonna pick Phillies.
Okay, fair enough. So in your bracket, you have in the NLCS Dodgers Phillies. I have Dodgers Braves. Third time in the last 4 years that matchup's happened. I'm going to give it to the Braves in 6. What about you?
For the ALCS?
NLCS. In your case, Phillies Dodgers, not Braves Dodgers.
Oh. Okay, so I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be Dodgers for Game 6.
So you're going Dodgers in 6.
Yes.
Okay. ALCS.
All right.
Houston against Baltimore. Does this go the distance? I don't know. Baltimore has pretty much clobbered AL East teams except Tampa in the ALCS. But Baltimore is the one they haven't faced yet. They've taken, along with the Blue Jays, they've taken out the Yankees 3 times, Boston once, fell to the Rays.
The Rays.
But we have the Orioles in the ALCS. That's with the Astros. And I'm going to say Orioles in 7. What about you?
I'm gonna say Orioles in well, it's gonna be a hard, so I'm gonna pick 7 too.
All right. Finally, our World Series matchups. You have Dodgers Orioles. I have Braves Orioles. Who you got to win in your side and how many games?
What you said?
Who do you have in your World Series of Dodgers Orioles and in how many games?
For World Series, I'm gonna pick Dodgers.
In 4, 5, 6, or 7?
In Game 6.
In my case, I'm going to go Baltimore in 7.
Oh, okay.
Like over Atlanta, not Los Angeles. Well, thanks for helping me out with this, Darwin.
You're welcome.
Just remember, you're only in here as a sub for tonight.
Yes.
Anyway, that's it for tonight. I want to thank Darwin for coming in as a substitute. Leave a comment, smash the like, sub to our channels. This is the Rant Guy, Darwin Pierre Lewis, and that's signing out. Goodbye.
Good fucking night. Bang.
And cut.
Hi.
I gotta get